Hello everyone, back tuning into the 7th Christmas update from GazObvious.com. So we've done 6 updates so far, and this is your 7th Christmas update using the CFSV2 9-monthly forecast at website metroseal.fr. So we're looking for the trend of the Christmas period with these Christmas updates. Of course, you can't pinpoint the weather down to Christmas Day in exact detail at this point. It's far too far away to be able to do that. So we're looking for the trend within the long-range model for this mid to late December to early January sort of period. And so far we haven't really had a trend. All of the updates have been very individual, have been having various scenarios playing out. The last update, the 6th update, had a cold weather around Christmas. So that was the most interesting update that we've done so far, I think. But as I say, I haven't really had a trend. We'll see whether that cold Christmas appears again for today's 7th Christmas update. If it does, then we'll be able to say we've got a trend for a cold Christmas, but of course it may not do. You'll find out in a moment. Very busy day at GazObvious today, so we released the 12th Winter 2018-19 update this morning. That is currently on the homepage, that video, and later on today, hopefully, that video will be placed on the Winter Updates page with a written summary. If I can't get it onto Winter Updates page this evening, then it'll definitely be tomorrow. I'm just a bit snowed under with updates today. We also released the Meteo France and ECMWF seasonal model update a couple of hours ago, so quite an interesting update covering the winter and into the spring with Meteo France and ECMWS seasonal models. There's going to be a live chat with myself and Quantum at 5 o'clock in around an hour's time. You'll be able to hear that on the homepage. We'll be discussing the chance of colder weather coming up in the next few days, any wintry potential with that, and I'm sure the winter of 2018-19 will crop up in that as well. We'll be taking your questions. It'll be interactive on Twitter, on Facebook, on all of the social media accounts. So that'll be in around an hour's time. That's the reason this Christmas update is a little bit earlier than it would normally be. So just to talk you through the model again, it's a CFSV2 9-monthly forecast from metroseal.fr. You can find a link to Metroseal on the links page at GazObvious and in the description box at YouTube. So it was generated midday yesterday, this particular run, 17th of November. We always use a midday run for no particular reason. There's no reason why we would do that, just that's the one we always pick, and it's best if you can use the same run all the time. I mean, you can't be told off for cherry picking any particular outcome. This is purely the way the charts are coming out as we are doing the updates. So let's get on with your 7th Christmas 2018 update, and we see here on the 10th of December we've got a deep area of low pressure over the UK and just to our west. That's bringing wet and windy weather in from the Atlantic. Quite cool as well with that air, so there might be something a little bit wintry going on up across Scotland. That gets out of the way on the 11th, but then on the 12th we run another deep area of low pressure, and that's giving us a bit of a battering with heavy rain, gale or even severe gale force winds. That one moves out of the way, and on the 13th here comes the next one. That's bringing us another bout of wet and windy weather on the 13th of December. Again, quite cold out on the northern edge of that low pressure, so there might be some snow parts of Scotland, but generally this is a very active period of weather that's bringing wind and rain to many parts of the country. Now that moves away on the 14th of December, and we have an attempt at building a bit of a ridge over the country, but with a 960 millibar area of low pressure just to west of Ireland, any attempt at a ridge is going to struggle. Its days are going to be numbered, really, as this low pressure rattles in and we bring more wet and windy weather into the country as we go into the middle of December. This is the 15th, looking very unsettled, wet and windy conditions sweeping in across the country. Now we've gone to the 16th and we're trying to build up a little bit of pressure to our south, so that takes us from the 16th through to the 17th. Heights are rising across France and we're having a go at reaching up towards Scandinavia, but again the Atlantic does look quite buoyant. We've still got these deep areas of low pressure here out just to the west of the country, and so you'd expect wet and windy weather to probably be having another go at moving in. Let's see what happens. So we get to the 18th, onto the 19th. Here comes the next area of low pressure in from off the Atlantic. That's bringing more wind and rain across the country. Moving up towards Christmas, so this is the 21st, and then on to the 20th on to 21st of December. And it's all looking very wet and windy, I have to say, for this 7th Christmas update. We've got a deep area of low pressure again to the west of Ireland at 960 millibars here at midnight on the 22nd of December. So again, another bout of really wet and windy weather sweeping across the country with sunny spells and showers following along behind. Really quite a stormy run up to Christmas there. We're up to the 23rd, so the eve of Christmas Eve looks like that, with wet and windy weather now across the northwest of Scotland. That's a real Atlantic storm that we've got there at midnight on Christmas Eve. It's 950 millibars to the south of Ireland. Severe gale force, maybe storm force winds battering Scotland there. Not as windy for England and Wales, but I mean, this is a very, very unsettled, very stormy 7th Christmas update. Run through Christmas Eve, so we probably keep quite a bit of dry weather down in the south, but the north does look very wet and windy, stormy even, with gale or severe gale force winds once again. This is how Christmas Day is looking for today's 7th Christmas update, and it's very different to the 6th update. No cold weather going on there because we've got an area of high pressure down to our south. Low pressure's out to the northwest again. We're bringing up this long fetch southwesterly wind, so there's probably quite a lot of cloud and some outbreaks of rain, particularly for the north and west. I would have thought mainly dry down in the south. The temperatures would be very mild with that. You'd be into double digits, I would have thought. 10, 11, 12 degrees, certainly possible with that southwesterly wind. So completely different to the 6th update. And therefore, we still do not have a trend yet for this Christmas period. Boxing Day looks like that, so some sort of cold front is moving down across the country, bringing in a northwesterly type flow, so a bit cooler for Boxing Day following a band of rain. Again, very windy up across Scotland with more gale force winds battering them on Boxing Day. That's how the 27th through 28th is looking. Again, I have a go at building some ridging to our south, but its days are numbered with the Atlantic still looking very, very buoyant. So we're moving into the Christmas to New Year period now, and it's still wet and windy, very mild with those southwesterly winds. But I mean, we're talking about gale force winds across many parts of the country, particularly in the north and west, with more bouts of wet weather, again, affecting northern western parts of the country in particular. When you see all these purple colours turning up to the north of the UK, around Iceland, around Greenland, going over towards Canada, that's going to tell you that you've got a very, very strong polar vortex, you've got a very strong jet stream, and that's just westerlies really sweeping in from sort of Canada, America, right way through into Russia. We're up to New Year now, so we've gone into New Year's Eve and then on into New Year's Day. Really unsettled. Look at those westerly winds we've got coming through there. So severe gale force winds around New Year. Probably quite disruptive, actually, for Hogmanay parties up across Scotland. Storm force winds. Again, more bouts of wet weather sweeping in off the Atlantic. Probably turning a little bit colder as well. This is kind of like into cold zonality with the air just cooling down a little bit from Greenland. Let's run you into the first days of the new year, and it stays very unsettled, more low pressure moving in across the country, bringing more wet and windy weather. And then going a little bit colder, we've got to the 4th of January, and that low pressure, as it exits away into the North Sea there on the 3rd through to the 4th, it does pull in a northerly wind on its backside, so it turns a little bit colder. And probably has some wintry showers, snow showers for the north. But again, the Atlantic looks so buoyant, so any attempt of turning the wind into the north and building any sort of ridge is going to be doomed to failure, really, with the Atlantic still very buoyant. We find low pressure coming back in, bringing more wet weather from off the Atlantic through this first week of January. This gets a little bit more interesting then through to the 8th. Some high pressures having a go at building over Scandinavia. Will that be able to get the wind into the east? Well, not really. The Atlantic is still in far too buoyant phase to allow any blocking to develop to our north and east. And so as we run up to the middle of January, we just remain in those westerly winds. Not as stormy as it is before and over Christmas, but still unsettled with wet weather coming in off the Atlantic at times. And still some pretty strong winds at times as well. So this one's a very stormy one. The first one really that we've done through these Christmas updates so far that has been genuinely zonal from beginning to end. So that's the default setup, of course, for for this part of the world, zonal westerlies in winter is our default scenario. So we can't discount that at all. It could be that the westerlies are going to start ramping up and we're going to go into a stormy, wet and windy phase of weather through December and into the new year. All I'd say is that it's the first time we've seen this extent of westerlies through these Christmas updates. We certainly haven't trended yet in this direction, so it could just be a one-off. We'll have to wait until we do more updates to see whether this is the beginning of a trend towards something much more stormier and unsettled for Christmas, or whether it's just the CFS throwing one out there and we see something different for the 8th update. The 8th Christmas update will be with you on, so it's Sunday day, it'll be with you on Tuesday, and that'll be around 7 o'clock in the evening. So we'll come back with our latest instalment then for Christmas. Don't forget to check out all of the updates that have been released at Gaz today, and of course we've got the live chat coming up in less than an hour, so have a listen to that if you'd like to do that. You can ask your questions on Twitter, on Facebook, on the social media accounts, and it'll be interactive. So see you then in around an hour, hopefully. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.